So the event is about getting back your confidence after workplace trauma. Well, basically share our experience because both my co-host and me have experienced workplace bullying and the most ridiculous pressure, um, the rush, the sitting through all kinds of things the entire weekend and having to work the entire weekend. The little remarks that managers can make, like things like you would go home at 7 after being there since 6 in the morning, and they would actually ask, "What? You're going home already?" Yeah, I have kids and they are out of school since 4 o'clock. So I need to, get home. I would like to see my kids somewhere this week still. Ridiculous that you would go home after a 13-hour workday and you would get that feeling of, almost like I'm doing something wrong. While in reality, it's of course that your employer is doing something wrong by even expecting those amounts of hours and efforts and this always on type of behavior that's I mean it may be common but it's not normal. So that's what the webinar is about those events that um, they can be extremely traumatic if you have I mean these are light cases, like really light cases that I'm now saying. I spoke with somebody recently that told me that they were in a sort of in a lock-in because they had a work permit and their employer would threaten to pull the work permit, meaning that they had to leave the country. Yeah, it's extreme. The
Yeah.
bullying and the the things that go on in some workplaces. And luckily, of course, there's also good employers out there, people that don't do this. The managers that realize that it's more important to nurture your employees than to punish them, sort of, or scare them into doing extra work. Um,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of people out there that are experiencing the opposite, and in my opinion, way too much, way too
Yeah.
much. I think the trauma in the workplace is a subject that everybody can relate to in some way, shape, or form, because everybody and in some point at their lives went through that and basically dismissed it, saying, "Well, this is just part of the job, probably." When you just start out with your first position, if you have a manager that is inexperienced and that doesn't know how to nurture their people, um, some managers get really directive, really want to exert some kind of control because they haven't learned yet that control and directiveness isn't the best way to go. Um, then, or in some roles it is. Don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of roles that you don't need to be directive. You don't need to have control over everything. You can
Mhm.
trust your people to do their work, and then if you nurture them and if you make sure that you align your communication well and you explain what is expected of them, they will figure out how to best fulfill that role, and you don't need to exert that much control over what they do, and especially not how they do it. This webinar is going to be big. It's going to be big, and there's going to be a lot of stories and also a lot of emotions, I think, um, from people going back to those years when they were badly treated and when they had managers that didn't really communicate well, and when they had managers that expected the worst and acted on their expectation instead of what you actually delivered. And so there's so much in that workplace trauma and these types of experiences. They're not only stuck in our mental state. They're stuck in our body as well. I mean,
Absolutely.
people store it somewhere, and if you have to suppress it, then where do you suppress it to, right?
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to being able to support the people that are on that goal with this. It's going to be, people are going to realize that they're going to feel recognized for their feelings and for their experience. And they're going to realize that a lot of people go through it and that really it's not normal. It's not normal to have these types of experiences. That I mean, the workplace should be a place where you feel safe, where you feel like you can express yourself. And of course, I mean, every job has to have stuff that you don't like. in my business as well, I don't much like to do my administration or talk to my accountant once a month for 2.5 hours to go over everything. I don't like that either. But that's just part of the business. And in any job, you always have part of the job that is not what you truly want to do. Let's say it's not purpose fulfilling. But if the majority of your job becomes that a struggle, then you're not in the right spot. Or um, you can maybe have a conversation about that, or do something about that, or find support to help you deal with that. But it shouldn't. I mean, nobody should feel that 60% or 80% of their work is a struggle, right? It's this Thursday already, the 16th,
Okay.
9 a.m. Eastern,
Okay.
which is 3 o'clock European Central.
Wonderful.